The night Leo was born, the sky burned red. Thunder rolled like the drums of angry gods, and the moon hid behind thick black clouds. Inside the royal palace of the kingdom of Zamuna, screams filled the air, not of joy, but of war. Outside the palace walls, thousands of soldiers fought for their lives. The once peaceful kingdom was under attack by a dark warlord named Ragnar, a man whose heart was colder than stone and whose eyes glowed like fire. He had returned from exile with powers no man had ever seen, powers given by dark spirits. As his army stormed the kingdom, fire swallowed the fields, and the rivers turned red with blood. Inside the palace, the queen cried in pain as she gave birth to a son, a baby destined to change the world. The king, bleeding from battle, smiled weakly as he held his child for the first and last time. But before he could speak, Ragnar's soldiers broke into the throne room. "Find the child," the warlord roared. "No seed of the king must live." The palace shook, swords clashed, and in the middle of that chaos, a brave maid wrapped the newborn in white cloth and ran through the secret tunnel beneath the palace. Behind her, the queen screamed one last time as flames swallowed the royal chambers. That night, a kingdom fell, a king died, and a legend was born. The boy's name was Leo. The order was clear. Every baby in the kingdom of Zamuna must die. Ragnar, the new king, sat on the royal throne he had stolen, his dark eyes cold as he spoke. "No child of the former king will live," he growled. "Burn their homes, leave none alive." His soldiers obeyed without mercy. For days the kingdom became a land of weeping. The cries of mothers filled the air as soldiers went from house to house, tearing infants from their arms. But far away, under the cover of night, one woman fled. Her name was Mara, once a maid in the royal palace. She carried a small bundle close to her chest, a baby boy wrapped in white cloth. His name was Leo. Through forests and rivers she ran until her feet bled. Guided by the stars and the whisper of the gods, she reached a quiet village called Dunba. Dunba was a small farming village surrounded by dusty hills. The people there lived in fear, ruled by Brutus, one of Ragnar's most wicked commanders. His soldiers controlled every breath the villagers took. They made the people work in the fields and mines from dawn till night. Even the old and sick were forced to carry heavy loads. Those who failed to complete their quota were flogged like animals. Sometimes the soldiers would take the young girls away, leaving their families crying in shame and helplessness. Years passed, and Leo grew strong. His arms became firm from hard labor, and his heart grew heavy from watching others suffer. He could not bear how the soldiers treated the people. Yet Leo was not afraid. He worked faster than anyone else, and always helped others, especially the old men who could barely stand in the hot sun. When his friends were weak, he shared his food and helped them meet their quota. Everyone admired him for his courage, but they also feared he would one day anger the soldiers. His mother, Mara, often warned him. "Leo, please, my son," she said softly one evening as they sat by their small fire. "Don't fight them. They are dangerous men. Promise me you'll stay away." Leo looked into the fire, his jaw tight. "Mama, how can I stay quiet when they hurt people who can't fight back? One day, someone has to stop them." Mara's eyes filled with tears. She knew her son's spirit was strong, maybe too strong. She touched his hand gently. "Courage is good, my son, but wisdom keeps you alive." Outside, the sound of a soldier's whip cracked in the air.
followed by a man's cry. Leo's fists clenched. His heart burned. He didn't know it yet, but the blood of kings ran through his veins. And though he lived as a slave in Dunba, destiny was already calling his name. The sun blazed hot over the village of Dunba. Dust rose from the dry fields as tired men and women bent low, working without rest. The air was filled with the crack of whips and the angry shouts of Brutus's soldiers. Mara could barely walk that morning. Her body was weak from years of hard labor, and a deep cough shook her chest. Still, she tried to smile at Leo as he helped her sit by their small hut. "Don't worry, Mama," he said gently. "I'll finish my work early and bring you food." Mara touched his hand. "Be careful, my son. The soldiers are angry today. They say Brutus wants more grain for the king." Leo nodded and went to the fields, his jaw tight with determination. By midday, the heat became unbearable. The villagers moved slowly, but the soldiers shouted louder. One of them, Sergeant Koro, was the cruelest of them all. He carried a long whip and laughed whenever someone cried. As Leo worked, he saw his friend Toby sneaking a small basket of maize into his bag. Toby's mother was sick and starving, but before Toby could hide it, Koro's sharp eyes caught him. "You thief!" Koro roared. He dragged Toby into the open and threw him to the ground. The villagers froze. "Please, sir," Toby begged. "My mother hasn't eaten." Koro's whip lashed across his back. Once, twice. The sound echoed painfully. The other soldiers laughed as Toby screamed. Leo's hands shook. He remembered Mara's warning, "Don't fight them." But when Koro lifted his whip again, Leo couldn't stay still. "Stop!" Leo shouted. His voice thundered through the field. Koro turned and sneered. "You dare speak, boy?" He walked closer, grinning cruelly. "Maybe you want the whip instead." He struck Leo across the shoulder. The pain was sharp, but Leo didn't fall. He stared straight into Koro's eyes, and something inside him snapped. With lightning speed, Leo caught the whip midair and pulled. Koro stumbled forward, shocked. Before he could draw his sword, Leo's fist hit his face like a hammer. The sergeant crashed into the dirt. The other soldiers rushed at Leo, but he fought with a strength none had ever seen. His fists moved like fire. He dodged blows, kicked, and struck with fury. When it was over, 2 soldiers lay lifeless on the ground. The villagers stood in silence, mouths open, hearts pounding. Koro, bloodied and terrified, crawled away shouting, "He'll pay for this! Brutus will destroy you!" Leo looked around. His chest heaved. The whip still hung from his hand, stained with dust and sweat. He knew there was no turning back now. He turned to Toby. "Take care of my mother," he said. Then he ran, past the fields, past the river, into the thick shadows of the forest. Behind him, the cries of the soldiers echoed, but Leo didn't stop. He entered the dark wood forest, where even the bravest men never dared to go. The trees whispered, the air grew cold, and the night swallowed him whole. He didn't know it yet, but the forest was waiting for him.
Are you enjoying the story so far? Support the creators by subscribing to our YouTube channel, African Folktales with Oni. Snack your fingers like as you click that subscribe button. You won't regret it. Thank you for your love and support. Now let's dive back into the story. The forest swallowed Leo whole. Branches clawed at his skin, and the sound of his heartbeat pounded louder than the wind. The thick mist wrapped around him like a living thing.
Somewhere behind him, the cries of soldiers echoed, fading into the distance. He stopped only when his legs could no longer carry him. Sweat drenched his body, and his breath came in ragged gasps. All around, the forest whispered, faint voices that didn't sound human. Shadows moved between the trees, though no wind blew. Leo stared into the darkness, clutching a sharp stick he'd picked from the ground. "If you want me, come out and fight," he muttered. But the whispers only grew louder. The forest was alive, watching him. Back at the edge of the woods, the soldiers of Brutus stood trembling. None wanted to go in. "Commander said bring the boy back," shouted one of them. "Then you go," another replied, eyes wide with fear. "No one returns from that place." At last, 5 men entered, torches in hand. Their firelight flickered between the trees as they moved deeper, calling Leo's name. Suddenly, the night erupted with screams. The torches fell, and the trees seemed to close in. When dawn came, the ground was silent, blood and torn armor scattered like leaves. The surviving soldiers stumbled out in terror. "He's dead," one cried. "The forest took him. The spirits devoured them all." Word spread quickly through Dunba village. Leo was gone. Mara fell to her knees when she heard. Her cries broke the hearts of all who listened. "My son, my boy," she wept, clutching the ground. The soldiers came searching for her, too, calling her the mother of a traitor. But the women of the village would not let her be taken. They hid Mara in an old grain hut, covering her with rags and whispering prayers that the soldiers would not find her. That night, Mara stared into the dark, tears falling. "If only I had stopped him. If only I—" Far away, in the heart of the evil forest, Leo lay beneath an enormous old tree. Its roots were as wide as walls, its bark glowing faintly in the moonlight. Exhausted, he ate a few of its strange purple fruits and slowly drifted into sleep. Around him, the forest stirred. Strange lights danced near his face like fireflies, circling him gently, almost protectively. The voices that once whispered now hummed softly, as though recognizing something in his blood. The forest did not kill him. It watched him. It waited for him. For destiny had just begun to unfold. When Leo opened his eyes, sunlight was pouring through the thick leaves above. For a moment, he thought he had died and awakened in another world. The air was cool, filled with the scent of wild flowers and strange humming sounds that seemed to come from nowhere. He sat up slowly beneath the ancient tree, whose glowing bark had sheltered him through the night. The forest looked alive, its branches moving as though whispering secrets to each other. Leo rubbed his head. "Where am I?" he muttered. His stomach growled, reminding him he hadn't eaten more than a few fruits since yesterday. He picked another from the ground and bit into it. Sweet, but strange, almost too sweet. Then came the sound, a scream, high-pitched, human, and not far away. Leo jumped to his feet, his muscles tense. He could have ignored it. After all, this forest had already claimed lives. But something in him refused to walk away. He sprinted toward the sound, branches snapping under his feet. In a small clearing, he saw them, 5 savage-looking men, their skin painted with ashes, their teeth filed into points. They were cannibals, surrounding a young girl about his age. She fought fiercely, her hands glowing with a faint blue light as she hurled energy that sent 2 of them flying back. But there were too many. One grabbed her from behind. Without thinking, Leo roared and charged. His fist slammed into the nearest man's jaw, sending him crashing to the ground. Another swung a club. Leo ducked and kicked him into a tree. The girl twisted free, light bursting from her palm, burning through another attacker's chest. In moments, the clearing was silent. The last 2 cannibals fled into the shadows, their terrified screams echoing through the forest. The girl turned to Leo, breathing hard. Her dark eyes softened with gratitude. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Those men, they were cannibals. They've hunted travelers for years. If you hadn't come—" I nodded. "I couldn't just watch. You were outnumbered." She smiled faintly. "Still, you risked your life. Not many would do that." The girl turned to Leo, breathing hard. Her dark eyes studied him. You're not from here," she said softly. Leo wiped blood from his hand. "No, I ran here. I didn't mean to trespass." "Trespass?" She almost smiled. "You survived the forest's curse. No one does that." "What curse?" Leo asked. She looked around warily. "This forest kills strangers, but it didn't kill you. It protected you. That means something." Leo frowned, confused. "Who are you?" "My name is Arya," she said, lowering her hand. The faint glow faded from her fingers. "I live here, with my father. You need to come with me. It's not safe to stay out here when the sun sets." Leo hesitated, then nodded. "Lead the way." They walked together through twisting paths until they reached the small hut hidden between towering roots and ancient stones. Smoke rose gently from its roof. An old man sat outside, his eyes sharp despite his wrinkled face. He smiled as they approached. "So, the forest has finally brought him to me," he said, in a low, calm voice. Leo blinked. "You know me?" The old man nodded slowly. "I know who you are, child of destiny, and tonight you will know it too."
The night in the evil forest was cold and heavy with mystery. The crackling fire cast long shadows on the walls of the small hut as Leo sat quietly beside Arya and her father, Elder Damos. Outside, strange howls echoed through the trees, but within there was a calm, sacred silence. Damos stirred the pot of soup hanging over the fire, his wrinkled eyes glinting with memories of pain. Then he looked at Leo and said softly, "There is a story you must hear, my son. A story that began long before you were born." Leo leaned forward, his heart thudding. Many years ago, Damos began. There was a mighty kingdom called Zamuna, ruled by a noble king named Adin and his beloved queen, Liana. They were loved by all and blessed by the gods. Their people sang their names with pride, for under their rule, Zamuna flourished like a garden watered by heaven. For years, the royal couple had no child, and while the people prayed for an heir, the king's cousin, Ragnar, grew restless. Ragnar was a fierce warrior, strong but ambitious, his heart poisoned by envy. He wanted the throne and mocked the king's misfortune. But one day, the gods answered the kingdom's prayers. The queen conceived, and joy swept across Zamuna. The king held a great feast, but Ragnar did not celebrate. His eyes burned with hatred. Consumed by envy, he swore that no child of Adin would ever rule. He left the kingdom. Months later, as the queen gave birth, Ragnar returned, no longer a mere man, but something darker. He had gone to the mountains beyond the lands of men, where forbidden gods dwelt, and there he made a pact, sealed in blood. When he returned, he brought with him soldiers of shadow, and their eyes glowed like coals from the underworld. That night, Ragnar struck. He led his dark army against the palace, killing all who stood in his way. The king fought bravely, but was slain. The queen screamed as her newborn son was taken from her arms. In the chaos, Damos, the chief priest, took the baby and fled through a secret passage. His wife had just given birth to his daughter, Arya, but Ragnar's soldiers killed her before Damos could reach her side. In tears, Damos carried both infants, Leo and his own daughter, through fire and blood. At the gates, he met Mara, the queen's loyal maid who had escaped the slaughter. Together, they ran into the night as the kingdom burned behind them. When they reached the edge of the evil forest, Damos pressed the royal child into Mara's arms. "Take him," Damos whispered. "Raise him as your own. Hide him when no man will ever find him. I will remain here and seek refuge among the spirits of this cursed place." Mara wept but obeyed. She vanished into the human lands, carrying baby Leo to the village of Dunba, where he would grow up not knowing who he truly was. Now, years later, the firelight flickered across Damos's face as he looked at the young man before him. "Leo," he said softly, "you are the son of King Adin, the last heir of Zamuna. The blood of kings runs in your veins. Ragnar still sits upon your father's throne, ruling with fear and dark magic. But the gods have not forgotten you." Leo's eyes widened, his heart pounding as though thunder roared within him. "I?" he stammered. "I'm the Prince of Zamuna?" Damos nodded, resting a trembling hand on his shoulder. "Yes, my son. And from this day forward, I will train you to fight, to lead, and to reclaim what was stolen from your bloodline." The fire crackled louder. Outside, the forest whispered as if the spirits themselves listened. The journey of the lost prince had begun. The morning sun crept slowly across the hills as Leo, Arya, and Damos walked out of the dark wood forest. Behind them, the trees whispered like old friends bidding farewell. Ahead lay the broken land of Zamuna, the kingdom that had once been full of joy and laughter, now silent under Ragnar's dark rule. The air smelled of smoke. Abandoned huts and trampled farmlands told their own stories of pain. As they moved along the dusty road, they saw villagers dragging themselves to work under the eyes of armed guards. Children cried for hunger, and old women whispered as they passed, "No one fights anymore. Brutus has crushed them all." Leo clenched his fists. Every sight, every cry fueled the fire burning within him. Damos noticed his anger. "Patience, my son," he said softly. "A lion doesn't roar before the strike." When they reached Dunba, Leo's heart broke. The village he once knew was now a prison. Wooden stakes lined the paths, each bearing warnings written in blood. Brutus's soldiers drank palm wine in the open, mocking the people and dragging young girls into their tents. The villagers' faces were pale with fear. As Leo hid behind a pile of logs, Arya touched his arm. "We can't save them all at once," she whispered. Leo nodded, but his eyes were drawn to one place, their old hut. Outside it, a woman knelt in the dirt, coughing weakly. Her gray hair was tied with a torn piece of cloth. "Mama," Leo's voice broke. Before he could move, 2 guards approached Mara. "Get up, old woman," one barked. "You didn't bow when Brutus passed." "I cannot," she gasped, clutching her chest. The guard raised his whip and struck her, once, twice. Leo's blood roared. Damos held his shoulder, whispering, "Not yet." But Leo shook free. His eyes were burning gold like fire. He stepped out of the shadows. "Enough!" The guards froze. The villagers gasped. Some dropped to their knees. "It's him," one whispered. "The boy who vanished into the forest. He's alive." The soldier sneered. "You, the forest ghost?" one mocked. Leo didn't answer. His blade flashed. The whip split in 2. The guard lunged with his sword. Leo sidestepped and struck like lightning. The man fell before his body even hit the ground. The other soldier ran, shouting, "Brutus, the ghost boy lives!" Mara's trembling hand reached out. "My son," she whispered through tears. Leo knelt beside her. "I'm here, Mama. I'm home." Arya and Damos stepped forward, their presence strong and calm. The villagers began to gather around him, whispering prayers, tears glistening in their eyes. Damos raised his staff high. "This night," he said, his voice deep and powerful, "marks the rise of Zamuna's true prince. The son of King Adin lives, and the gods walk with him." The people bowed low, hope returning to their faces for the first time in years. Far away, in the stone fortress on the hill, Brutus lifted his head. "Who dares disturb my rule?" he growled. The wind outside answered with a roar, the roar of a lion. The night sky over Dunba was quiet, but beneath that silence, the fire of rebellion was being born. In the shadows, behind the old grain storehouse, Leo knelt beside Damos and Arya as a dozen villagers gathered around them. Men, women, even some teenagers with fear and courage mixed in their eyes. Damos drew a rough map on the dirt floor with his staff. "Brutus's guards will change shifts at dawn. That's when we strike. The spirits are with us, but we must move with wisdom." Leo nodded. "No one here fights for power," he said firmly. "We fight for freedom, for our mothers, our fathers, our children. We fight so no one will ever live as slaves again." The villagers murmured in agreement. Arya raised her hand, and a soft blue glow shimmered in the air. "I will cover us in mist when the sun rises. They will not see us coming until it's too late." Leo smiled. "Then tomorrow, Dunba breathes free." When the first light of dawn touched the sky, the roar of drums shattered the silence. Brutus's soldiers marched into the square, kicking open doors, dragging villagers out. Brutus himself stood on the steps of the chief's hut, his massive frame glistening with sweat and pride. He barked, "Find that boy! Bring me his head!" Before the soldiers could spread, a sudden gust of wind swept through the square, a strange, glowing mist swirling around them. Confusion spread like fire. Then came the shout, "Now!" Leo leapt from the shadows, sword blazing in the morning light. Behind him, the villagers charged. Men with hoes, women with sticks, even boys throwing stones. Arya raised her hands, and a wall of wind burst forward, throwing soldiers off their feet. Damos's staff glowed as he called upon the ancient spirits of the forest. The ground trembled, knocking the soldiers to their knees. "Get him!" Brutus roared, charging forward with his giant axe. He swung it hard, sparks flying as it clashed against Leo's blade. The sound echoed through the village like thunder. Their fight was fierce. Brutus struck with the power of a beast, but Leo's speed and courage were unmatched. Each time Brutus roared, Leo struck faster. Their weapons clashed again and again, until Leo disarmed him completely. Breathing heavily, Brutus stumbled back. "Who are you?" he gasped. Leo's eyes blazed gold. "The son of King Adin, the rightful heir of Zamuna." With one mighty swing, Leo struck. Brutus's axe fell to the ground, and so did Brutus. The villagers erupted in cheers. Some wept, others knelt, thanking the gods. Arya rushed to Leo's side, her face glowing with pride. "You did it," she whispered. Leo looked around at the freed people, then at Damos. "No," he said softly. "We did it, together." Damos raised his staff high. "Hear me, people of Dunba," he cried. "Your prince has risen. The first chains of Ragnar's darkness have been broken." The villagers chanted Leo's name, "Leo, Leo, Leo," as the morning sun bathed the village in light for the first time in years. But far away, in his black fortress, Ragnar sat on his throne. A messenger knelt before him, trembling. "My lord, Brutus is dead. The boy lives." Ragnar's cold eyes narrowed. "So," he growled, "the cub has roared." He rose slowly, his dark armor glowing faintly with cursed energy. "Then it is time the lion meets the storm." Far away, Leo stood on a hill overlooking Dunba, Arya beside him and Damos behind. The golden lion spirit shimmered briefly in the clouds above, silent, watching. Leo's eyes burned with determination. "This is just the beginning," he said quietly. "I will take back what was stolen." The wind blew stronger. The trees bent. Even the earth seemed to tremble, as if knowing the battle for Zamuna had only begun. What destiny awaits the young prince? What storms will rise when Ragnar strikes back? Will Leo's courage be enough to unite a broken kingdom? Only time will tell. In Part 2, The Rise of the Lion King. Don't forget to subscribe to African Folktales with Oni, turn on the notification bell, and tell us in the comments what you've learned from this story. And as you wait for Part 2, The Rise of the Lion King, make sure you watch our next recommended story. Trust me, you'll love it. This is only the beginning.